Yeah, yeah, it's on. Okay, this meeting will come to order. Uh, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Thomas DeWitt. Here. Mike Rackler is absent. Preston Elkins. Here. Steve Davis is absent. And my name is Mike Davis. So we do have a quorum. Thank everybody for coming today. Do we have anybody attending on Zoom, Chris?
No.
Okay. The minutes of February 25th meeting have been published and distributed. Therefore, we will not read them. If there are no corrections, do we have a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay. Second. All right. Anyone opposed? And so the minutes from 2/25 have been approved. The agenda is published in advance. Could we have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So are we not going to discuss the drought contingency plan? I do not see that on here.
This is not on here. We have a meeting. Were you at the drought meeting?
No, that's subcommittee of this.
Okay, so we made a meeting for next Monday a special meeting for next Monday to discuss the drought contingency plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Water advisory.
Yes, through the water advisory committee. And you should have gotten 2 emails by now.
Yeah,
regarding that.
I was looking at it and reading through it this morning. So I'll just add that to my comments at the end,
Okay.
just to maybe think about before that meeting.
Okay. Yeah. And you also have access to email. That's the point of those emails going out, is for you to shoot your ideas back.
Right.
Okay. So do we have
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
As amended.
Second? Second. Okay. And we'll be discussing items specifically on the agenda. We'll conclude with members of the Public Works Committee, city staff, and the public having the opportunity to comment for up to 3 minutes. As a point of order, please indicate you wish to talk. And I just created a new document, so I have. Please respect while somebody has the floor, let them speak without interruption. So, first item on the agenda would be presentation from Portales Country Club.
Okay, this will be more of a discussion and an interest seeking topic, less of a presentation. But myself, who's on the board of the Portales Country Club, and Jerry Partner here to kind of pick y'all's brains on some ideas that we're having related to water. So currently we all know that the wastewater treatment plant isn't operating as effectively as it could. I do believe the 2 retention ponds are essentially out of commission because they've fallen out of compliance, correct? So I know y'all are working on some sort of plan with the water engineer or somebody, the state, to get that back into compliance. I think we could be a help to that, depending on y'all's knowledge of what you can and can't do with that water once it drops out of the A1 quality. We would like to propose a PPP, a private public partnership, with the country club to accomplish a couple of goals. Number one, we're operating at a limited capacity as far as our wells at the country club. We've all seen it. Our course is drying up. Our town and county is drying up, but it was made. There was a comment made at the last meeting by at the last council meeting made by Mr. Rackler that we have that 580 million gallons of treated wastewater that's being run to the playa. We think this would be a good use for that water that's just being shipped to Road 8. If we could come up with a plan to utilize the reuse system in order to keep the circulation and the water moving, I think it'd be a great benefit to the city. I think the issue that has fallen out of compliance is the stagnation of that water. And so if there's a time where you guys say, hey, we have to move water, our quality is degrading, we'll do everything we can to open up our pumps and use that where we can. I don't know if y'all can move it from that playa to that 200 acre, not the playa, the retention pond by the softball complex. Can you just drain it to that low lying area to essentially start over? Or what do you have to do with the water while it's sitting stagnant? Do y'all know yet?
It has to pretty much go to the playa. That's the. Our permit, we can't send it out into our reuse system at all. So it pretty much has to go to the playa.
Really? The retention ponds do in order to get rid of it?
Well,
Is that what you're
what's
saying?
in the retention ponds now was already through the system before it. It's already accounted for. It's already gone through the flow meter, so it's already accounted as being used, so.
Okay, but the water that's in the retention ponds, we can't even water the softball complex with it, right? Can we?
What's in there right now, yes, you can.
You can.
We just can't put any more into it. Until we get under compliance.
We have the
Okay,
main valve shut off to the distribution system for the reuse, as of right now. So with us being out of compliance with that discharge permit, she told us you cannot no longer discharge into your reuse system. So that's where we're at.
so all of the water that we're treating currently is going to the playa. Nothing's being put into that system.
No.
Okay.
Correct.
So we can still water the softball complex with the water that's already there, but once that empties, you're out.
Yeah, until we're back under compliance.
Okay, I think that we would be a good supplement to assist with that, just to help move it. Now I know one question is gonna be, well, how much are you gonna buy it for? I don't know that we have a nominal figure that we know what we could charge as a city for that. Good.
I would think if the infrastructure is not there and the country club put in the money to do the infrastructure, that the city could at that point consider it.
Payment.
paid.
Well, and that's kind of the point of the partnership. It's not just you helping the country club get water. It's helping y'all stay in compliance and keep that operating to where we're not just shedding all that water. So I think that would be a good alternative. Now we can't take 580 million gallons. I don't think we would need near that. But I'm sure we can use a fraction of that to just help move the water. And so if there is interest there, we would love to. And we would even be open to the thought of, we're a private club, figuring out some type of system to where we allow public golfing. You can still have a membership and be a private member, because we do have a liquor license that requires it to be a private club. That's the type of license that we have. So you as a public golfer, you cannot come in and buy alcohol unless you have a membership. But that could change for the golfing. We have yet to figure out a plan for that. We wanted to make sure that there was interest with the city and that it would fit with y'all's plan to get into compliance, and if at all capable of even accomplishing it.
Well, I know for a fact that the golf course is tied to that discharge permit. You guys are on one of the destinations for it. And
Okay.
I sent this map over to Moira and Christine, right there on the south end town. By that last.
The fire hydrant right there.
Yeah, that's the closest infrastructure to you guys.
Okay.
The golf course.
We have not done any preliminary work as far as figuring out what the cost of a 4-inch pipe to get to there would be, and to bed that properly. Now, there's a question, since if our meter point was right at that hydrant and everything beyond that we owned and had an easement through the city, do we have to gravel, sand, and properly bed that to city specs, or since it's beyond the meter, can we just dig a trench and bury it? Do you know?
I would assume that you guys would have to follow some type of speculations through the state for
Okay.
construction purposes.
Okay,
Now I don't know what that.
even if it's privately owned?
So I know that because we follow WWA standards, and then there's a plumbing standard that you would have to follow. I'm not 100% sure on what that plumbing standard is.
Okay.
For private. Now with it being a 4-inch, I think it means it as commercial or industrial use instead of just a 3/4-inch line where it's just a normal service line.
Well, and y'all would know, if, let's just say we said 100 gallons a minute, what size Can you do that? You can't do that through a 3/4 inch. You're gonna have to go up to probably 2 or a 3, aren't you?
Right, a 2 inch will suffice 170 gallons per minute.
A 2 inch would?
A 2 inch.
Okay.
Say a 1 inch would get you about 80. And it would be about a half mile. Yeah, and then there's that too, but it's got a pump, so it's got a pump station there. So that'll kick on and help with pressure.
Well, that fire hydrant, that's not on the,
That's not on it?
that's not, that's not coming off. It'll still be pressured to 80 PSI,
Right.
but it'll be from ours.
From the treatment plant, right?
Okay. Okay, but that is something that would be doable. Okay, would that help with the issues that we're having? If we do have the ability to move that water?
Well, I mean, that's gonna be the biggest concern is, once we get back in compliance is, we have to run the water. Otherwise, we're just gonna, over time, we're gonna end up.
It's gonna continue, it's gonna cycle. Well, and I don't know that we could take 100 gallons a minute, 24/7, because, I mean, you have to be able to golf at some point and not get the sprinklers there, but, if there'd be a way for us to have a tank on our end to where you essentially just fill that tank, and then we can discharge that when we need, we may be able to do that. But if we could get with y'all and come up with a good plan, if there is interest from us, or do y'all have any objections to that? I know we want to use that reuse and keep it in compliance.
I had some comments on it, but did Jerry, did you want to add to what he said, or did he cover what you
I
came
just
here?
want to emphasize that the board and
Maybe I better stop you. Christine likes, you got to go up to this microphone.
There's a microphone at my desk, there's a microphone there, there's
Okay.
a microphone up there.
Okay.
Nobody else gets picked up.
okay, I'm Jerry Parton. I'm a member of the board of the country club. I just wanted to emphasize that the board has discussed opening up some limited play to the citizens, where you do not have to be a member. I think there's some interest in saying, okay, at what level? Because what keeps the country club going is monthly regular payments of members that want to be a member of the country club. And if we just open it up, the concern is people will drop their membership and just play golf, as they want to, and then the golf course, the country club loses consistent revenue to stay in operation, especially during winter months and months that have very low activity. So that is the concern that we have. So what we're talking about is saying, yeah, let's open it up in a way that brings people to the golf course from the community, but still allows the golf course to stay in business on a regular basis. So that's our concern. So I want to open it up, but there is we recognize it needs to be played more than it is. And if the community can take part in that, we would love that. And also, I think the country club, if we lose our golf course here, that's just one more thing that we've lost as a community. That makes it harder to expand and retain businesses and make our community prosper. So that's basically what I wanted to say is, yes, we are interested. We are interested in if we can assist in doing this at the same time, improve our community through our resources and recreation. We will try to accomplish that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of things. And first I got to throw out a disclaimer, so have some patience with me. I worked for a gentleman for 25 years that was a golf addict, and he was instrumental in helping the country club when it had some turf diseases and they did not have a groundskeeper. Dorvin King, I worked for him for many years, and all of my friends played golf out there. I was horrible, but they took me along and let me drive one of the golf carts, so I was good. I spent a lot of time out there. My pops, Marty Martinez, played at that course until he was 91, and I strongly feel like the country club added 15 years to his life. There's a memorial brick out there with his name on it and my mom's name on it. So in a sense, and a lot of my friends are members out there. So in a sense, that is sacred ground to me. And I would love to see the country club thrive and to be able to use some of that affluent water. Honestly, I really don't think money is the issue. I read the situation that we got the loan on and it says that we can't give it away, but that would be up to the city whether money's the issue or not. With that being said, it is a private club and we have a lot of city parks that are not being able to use that affluent water. And a lot of those parks have more public impact on a capita basis than the country club did. So what I would be concerned with is the impression that the country club is coming in and crowding in line in front of some of these deals. If there was any way that we could get some of these parks up and operational along with the country club, opinion only here, I think it would be far more accepted. I don't think anybody wants to see the country club fail. I also don't think anybody wants to see our water just dumped into a swamp out there because it's not functioning as a playa anymore, not constantly being wet. So it's literally a swamp. So that would be my deal. When you're talking about open it up for public play, I think that's a great step because although it's still private, at least the public has a little bit more access to it. I think that's a giant step to that. So, and I think there's plenty of affluent water to go around, both to the country club and to the city parks. We're using a tiny fraction of it.
Yeah, and having Wilson Companies report when they said if you added in the country club and all of the parks, you're only going to boost our use of that by 2%. I think there's plenty of water there. So this may not even help us stay in compliance. If we can't use all of that 580, I don't know if us even doing the 100 gallons will keep it compliant. But I think it would be a help.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, where you guys are at with the golf course, y'all are literally taking the water that's off that impoundment. So that's just a secondary pond for us. So everything else like the parks and everything in town, that's coming off strictly from the impoundment that's there at the treatment plant. So the only thing that's sucking water from the impoundment there on industrial would be just the old soccer field and the softball complex. So an additive to that would be beneficial, I think, out there. And then of course we would fill that pond in the meantime, so it keep that water cycling. So yes, it would be a benefit. Now one of the unknowns to it's an unknown to me because I'm not sure how it works. With y'all being in the discharge permit, I would assume that you guys would follow the same specifications. But I think it'd be a question for Kimberly Townsend with the NMED, the environmental department. But just to go out there and ask her what the specifications are on for a private, maybe a permit, discharge permit. But you guys are in our permit, so I would assume that you guys would follow that same specification. But I just don't know.
We have had them come out and look at our facility.
Okay.
And basically the way we're operating right now, if we had water dumping directly into our collector tank, there would be no issue. We just need to put a sign saying we're gonna make water. Right. That is essentially all we would need to do to take water at this time. If we put it directly, but it would be intermittent. What we're talking about doing is putting in a retention pond so we can take it constantly at some level. if it was 100 gallons, if you need to get rid of 200 gallons a minute or something like that, we could do that. Just as long as we had the ability to retain it, and get rid of it, and, you know, we could take more than 100 gallons. 100 gallons would keep us maintained. If we need 200, yes, we could use that also, but it would be watering things that they expanding on what we currently water. So,
That's still unknown to me, so I don't know what that would entail. It might pose another conversation with Kimberly and just clarifying some things, but she's pretty easy to reach out to and get a hold of, so if we need to set that up. we can.
I think there would be plenty of water for all the city parks,
Mhm.
softball complex, cemetery, some of the schools, and the golf course. With the water that we're capable of producing, pumping it might be a challenge, but I think there's enough to go around. And so anyway,
Well, we just wanted to see if there was interest from the city before we, started taking steps. See if we can get this on a council meeting to get it passed there. And then it's gonna be a long waiting game with the state, I assume, with permitting, but if we're already in the discharge permit, maybe that will be minimal.
I think,
And
yeah, I think when we amended it back 4 years ago, you got put in the discharge permit.
that's awesome. Okay. If we can be of any help, use us. We're dying, and we need water. So we'll do everything that we can to assist in that.
okay. All right. Is there anything else on this topic? Okay. So next item up on the agenda would be ordinance 773. I'm going to make a statement first. There's been some confusion and a bit of angst surrounding this ordinance, so I want to add some clarity and some context. The Public Works meeting scheduled for December 3rd, 2024 had a full agenda, but it was canceled due to a public notification glitch. We mutually agreed to cancel the entire month of December because of holiday schedules. So needless to say, between the canceled meetings and a month and a half to accumulate other items, we had a packed agenda for the next meeting on January 14th. Added to that meeting was this discussion, action item B, vacant property ordinance presented by Planning and Zoning Director Kelly McClellan. An agenda packet went out for that meeting on January 9th. Later that day, an amended packet was sent adding the North Water project, extremely complex, required a lengthy presentation. Problem being, proposed ordinance 773 was not attached to either of those agenda packets. We had no information before the Public Works meeting regarding this ordinance other than the title. The first time we saw that document was when it was handed out to us as a printout a few minutes before the meeting started. Because of the overloaded docket, I had to postpone several items that day. I did not postpone ordinance 773 presentation. I requested that it be taken up later because while I agreed with the concept, the brief time we had to spend on it was not sufficient for due diligence. We were literally sitting there scrambling to read that document as Kelly was speaking about it. So I did give my personal opinion that I thought the ordinance would be supported by our committee, and I asked that it be brought back to the committee for proper review and that public safety also be involved since their meeting had been missed. Importantly, there was no motion or majority vote from this committee to support it, recommend it, or reject that document to the council, which is proper protocol. I think, I'm not sure if we're on the same page or even the same chapter, but I know we're in the same book. I think most of us would agree of some of the benefits of this, especially I think it would be beneficial to the fire chief, to the police chief, to be able to get in touch with property owners in an instant. Having this information on hand is a good idea. Some type of registry may be a solution. Having a document on file, whereas the owner gives permission to the police to remove unauthorized parties or to make it safe at owner's expense. Good ideas. Mr. Moyer, did you want to kick in here with your part of this discussion?
Okay,
Go ahead.
so, Kelly is gonna put this one on the back burner for a little bit, to get our nuisance ordinance up and running, but I do have a couple of things from her based off of this, and I have some comments on it. Right now, it's looking like, it's very controversial about the fee associated with this ordinance. We have looked at everything, and so the city does not have the budget to provide the services with the lien process. Liens in this state last up to 14 years. You can only be paid out if the property is put for sale or if it is refinanced. So we basically never collect our money, is what it comes down to. So we don't have a budget to do anything as far as if we needed to board up the city. We actually got a quote, $605 for a home to board it up and do everything. Board it up. And if you had to do that more than once in a year for a house, that's $1,200. $300 is a small fee, in my opinion, to make sure that the city is not making money, but recouping the costs that is required of it to make sure that these houses are maintained safe and not able to be broken into, hopefully. Obviously, nothing's fully secure at all times. So before we move forward and we get our nuisance ordinance, because that is gonna have fines associated with it, which may impact our budget and may change a few things. Also, since it has to go to this committee, original recommendations come back, have that draft approved, go to public safety, get their edits, go back to public safety, and then go back to legal. This process is probably gonna be months in the making. And so at this point, there is really, it's just, we need to tackle one thing at a time, and our nuisance ordinance right now takes precedence over this.
So let me throw a few things out at you. Sorry to butt in for you two. My first concern is this is deemed a vacant property ordinance. Vacant property is very much a normal part of the ebb and flow of business and residential life in this community. The businesses come and go, tenants come and go. Vacant property is not the problem. The real problem is abandoned and dangerous properties. I could wholeheartedly support the registration of dangerous and abandoned properties and include fees regarding those. But I also support the city being reimbursed for actual expenses in making these properties safe. Liens, other measures, I agree with you. I had a lien once that wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. At some point in time, though, some of those do come through. But it's like Mr. Rackler pointed out, there were vacant properties involved with one of his customers that they were not a problem. I feel like we might get in trouble for targeting if we're requiring a registration purely based on the fact that a property is vacant without evidence that that is harming or is a cost to the city. I also think it's legally vulnerable. And are you going to apply the exact same guidelines to occupied property? Because I've seen occupied property in worse shape than some vacant property. So there's no question we have a problem And there is no question that we support both of the chiefs in the obstacles that they are facing, no question. But deeming it vacant property, that's the one that gives me a problem. Secondarily, evidence of vacancy. I'm going to tell you a word that lost me was when the city came back and says the city owns the authority. When I said that it looks like we're declaring war, this is in legal language that is seen as provocative, overreaching, and it is implying a sense of absolute control. And in essence, what it's saying is not subject to challenge. And I think that language is too harsh. And I think when you use phrases like a reasonable person, I think that's a legal challenge waiting to happen. So those are some of my issues.
Okay, I tend to agree with some of your thoughts there. I will say, I don't think that was the intent of this ordinance. I think the intent of the ordinance was exactly what you described of a vacant and dangerous property. I think that's the issue, of allowing people to go into their homes. If it's securely boarded up, but it's vacant, I mean, Valley Furniture on the corner of the square, that's vacant.
Exactly.
But that's not going to be an issue because it is secured. I think the intent of this was the house across the street.
Exactly.
That's the type. I don't think this was brought to us with any malintent to put a thumb on our citizens saying, hey, we're going to control this. I think that the ability to deem something vacant and dangerous has to go to the city. Because me as a citizen, I can call in and say, hey, I think that my next door neighbor's house is vacant, but I think it's also dangerous. I can tell that to them. I think they're going to have the authority to actually make that determination or not. I think that was the intent of it. The nominal fee for the $300 when we were first discussing it at council, I was against it because I was saying, well, this is just a registry that they're trying to accomplish. But upon a little bit further research, I think this was actually brought up at economic development a while ago. And so the other thought there was, hey, I own this house here on the corner. I moved to California. It doesn't cost me anything for it to just sit the way it is. So I'm just going to leave it and forget it. Well, now if we have deemed it a dangerous property and we give you a $300 fee annually, well, now it kind of becomes an issue for you because, well, I'm either going to sell this property or I'm going to have to pay $300 for somebody to maintain it and keep it secured. I think that was the intent. So I think when it was first presented to us, well, heck yeah, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't do with my vacant property because a vacant property could just be a vacant lot. Now, if that vacant lot is covered in glass and dangerous objects, if kids get in, sure, I think that would qualify. But I think the intent of this was just for the house here on the corner that is vacant and it is a danger to our citizens.
I agree with you. And I don't mean to imply that there was ill intent. I'm suggesting that there is a clear-cut difference in vacant, abandoned, and dangerous. The flow chart is occupied, and we all know an occupied house can become vacant, a vacant house can become abandoned, and an abandoned house can become dangerous. And I have looked at it every single day for the last 30 years.
And it could be what was the first one? An occupied house?
Occupied house.
Occupied and dangerous. So I think the city can even make that determination.
Once it's deemed dangerous, that goes into a different class.
It goes into a whole different ordinance.
Yeah, so y'all got a lot more leeway as far as that goes, correct? Well, or a little more.
We still have to go to the courts, yes.
Oh,
It's a
yeah,
long process.
With the others though, with an abandoned home, can you go to court?
Not if it's not dangerous, no.
Yeah, see, and that's some of what I was picking up on was the difference in them classes right there. You know, they've got a lot more pull once it hits dangerous. I personally think I agree with a lot of what Mike was saying. I definitely think that the property owners need to be putting into the kitty instead of the taxpayers paying for our guys to go out and board up or even the law enforcement to do continue. Oh, we're short on law enforcement as it is. You know, they don't have time to be checking out these dangerous properties or even abandoned properties. So I don't know what the number is, but I do agree with some sort of, they need to pony up. I mean, it's their properties we're taking care of, they need to pony up. But on the same token, I agree with Mike, we've got to be careful on how we're categorizing. And I know y'all have got a plan, but we really got to be careful on how we're categorizing, a nuisance property versus a dangerous property or even just an abandoned property.
We have a ordinance 2749 for accumulation of garbage and debris. We have Article 2, dangerous buildings or debris, Section 931. We have an obnoxious weed ordinance already in place. So, yes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait till you finish.
Okay.
I just raised my hand to let you know that I wanted to talk.
Okay. So my concern there is, and I'm not being facetious on this. We have troubles keeping the weed ordinance caught up. We have trouble with keeping enough code enforcement officer and them having time. And so adding another ordinance concerns me, especially when we have these other ones that this one should have fallen under dangerous property a long time ago. And I think it did. It was brought to council and deemed a dangerous property. And it was brought to another council. And so at any rate, though, that's part of the concern. And I could see this being so much smoother if we separated vacant property from dangerous and abandoned. One more thing, I'll shut up. And a thought to throw out there is to waive a fee for 30 days, any fee, to entice people to make the registration that you're desiring. And then if they don't do that in 30 days, then charge a fee. If they don't do it in 60 days, make it a bigger fee. And I'm talking about dangerous and abandoned properties. Is give them the opportunity to participate in your program. And that's an idea.
So I agree that maybe a tiered payment, depending on the property, would be maybe more applicable. The dangerous property, we already have an ordinance for. Vacant and abandoned properties, we do not. Now, it is correct, this was brought up in economic development. What this ordinance is supposed to be for is to, when you add a number to it, right, $300 or whatever per year, is exactly that. It is to promote economic development and residential development. So to keep buildings from being vacant, to keep houses from being vacant and going into disrepair. Because we all know when you shut off electric and water, and you don't live in a house, the thing is going to, it's dying a quick death. To bring up the point about there were houses at the council meeting, there were houses that can't be repaired and that were boarded up. That they should be sold to somebody that wants to repair those houses. That's what this ordinance is trying to accomplish. And sometimes the only way to accomplish that is to assign a number that kind of puts a dent in your pocket. So as far as certain things with vacant, I agree that not all vacant properties are abandoned properties. One of the things that we probably could, and as they drive around, if a vacant property is in good repair and the yard doesn't have a ton of stuff in it, it doesn't have anything in it, and the weeds aren't up, and it looks like a house that you just drive by that somebody might live in, but just happens to not, I doubt it would even come on our radar. And that's kind of the point of this is you have to start somewhere. with how you beautify the city and how you start, reclaiming different areas. This is the start, and if you get enough people to do it, it'll spread. And then this ordinance is just kind of a piece of the puzzle. Now, that's why Kelly wants to hold off a little bit on this, because our nuisance ordinance with weeds and all those things, we are trying to make it, because right now, we don't really have any teeth behind anything. It's, we send you a notice. And if you don't do that, then we send you another notice. If you don't do that, then we have to go through the lien process, and that takes forever. And we don't have a local attorney to do that right now.
And that's what I meant that day when I spoke to you, even though, or spoke during that meeting, teeth, meaning to not let that across the street happen. There is obviously something wrong, no teeth, or no follow-up, no teeth, no money, no attorney. It has a whole series of problems.
Correct. It's $15,000 to $17,000, as Kelly said, to take care of an abandoned property with a $50,000 budget per year. That's nothing.
Then why do we spend $1,600 to mow a yard out of that budget?
We actually have.
We got that fixed.
We have that fixed. So that contract now just goes to major cleanup of properties.
Okay,
As far as just cutting weeds and all that stuff, we have a different piece to that, and it's I think the most we've been charged so far is 500. So we have fixed that problem.
Good.
But the nuisance ordinance that we're working on right now is gonna have fines attached to it, and it will basically go to municipal court.
okay. So
That's the way that we start. This is just the second piece in that puzzle for economic and residential development.
So regarding that, and I agree, I see your point. I also see the need on some of this. At the same time, some of that economic development stuff for other places has backfired because a lot of rental properties get rid of, rents go up. The Silver City tried this, and they rescinded it in 2019 as unenforceable. And so there also have been some failures. So that's my only deal is, man, if this is going to be done, I would think that it does need to be exactly right and exactly explained. And when that document went to city council and with our approval, that did get to me. Okay.
Mhm.
Because that document wasn't approved by this committee. The concept of what you're talking about absolutely interests this committee. It's very well received. It's very much needed. I mean, I'm in a beautification group. Obviously, I want to see this city become more beautiful. I also am surrounded by 4 vacant properties.
I understand that, and if I could tell you what happened with the filing in the court system with those, I would, but
I can only
I
imagine.
honestly think it was no follow-up.
I can only imagine, but I want to tell everybody a story here because I know the story of these things and they do not fit the city template. The neighbor at the corner across the street is in the rest home. Okay. They're paying a Medicare, Medicaid, I forget which, is paying like $10,000 a month to the place out here. Continuing care. I can't remember the name of it. Old hospital. Coronado. Thank you. So consequently, Social Security takes all her money except for $94 a month. Her property is vacant. Technically, it's abandoned because nobody's been there since January. Okay. The weeds are going to be coming up. She may or may not be able to pay her property tax. She's got a serious issue. And I know she's not going to be able to pay the city 3 months worth of the money that she has for that. This situation is not going to end well for her. She can't sell the property because that cancels her care. She can't rent the property because that cancels her care. So she is in a quandary. But it is a real life scenario that is happening that doesn't exactly fit this template.
We also have, there is an appeals process built into this. It's the human factor is not, you know, is not taken out of it. With the appeals process, they can, you know, it can be, you know, I know that she probably can't come in and
No.
somebody can on her behalf appeal this and, you know, come in and give that. And I would think that in that instance, we would put her on the vacant registry and not charge her.
Okay.
So there's ways that we can fix and not be seen as monsters. But you have to start with something, and I think this is where we start. And I understand that it hasn't worked in all cities, and it may not work here, but that doesn't mean we're not going to try it.
Quick question. Do you, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Do we know why it didn't work in Silver City?
Unenforceable.
Well, I mean, was it unenforceable?
I-
What we have to with our
I didn't go into more,
dangerous properties?
I didn't go into more depth than that.
Okay.
Silver City, unenforceable. Village of Santa Clara, after they came up with a final with a similar issue, it took them 8 town halls to get that ordinance approved. So, you know, and the only reason I throw those out is not to say success or failure. It's to say caution and making sure. And appeals process is great, but to not need an appeals process is even better if we could figure this stuff out in advance.
I think you can't.
I think we always
You can never
gonna
account for every scenario. An appeals process has to be built in.
I agree.
I agree with that for sure. I got a couple of real quick ones. What is abandoned? What do we deem abandoned? I know, I figured that was a big.
Whatever the definition in the ordinance says.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that
I
the
mean,
definitions can't be tweaked.
Does that mean we can't contact the owner, that we have no, they haven't
I mean,
paid their
that's
property
a lot.
taxes?
So that's a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Is, and we're correct a lot. A lot of people just move away and just leave their houses.
Well, I
Just gone, they're just gone, and then you can never contact them, or in the case of the primitive church. Nobody owns it anymore. We can't do really anything about it without the courts. And so that's really what we're waiting on.
Is it in somebody's name, or is it
It
in
is
the
in
church's name?
All the names of the people that
members.
is in are
Are
dead,
deceased?
yes,
Okay.
so it is. But we can't just go on that property and tear it down. It's just, it's not. There's still a legal process that you have to
Yeah,
follow.
there is, and I actually went through that with the church, where all the people were deceased. It was in the name of the church, and was able to get that put into a real person's name, and we're functioning from there. I've actually done that myself, smart as I am not, but we made that work. It is doable. Nuisance.
Correct.
Are we talking about, man, I'm just gonna hit my neighborhood.
It's debris, trash,
Okay, good.
appliances,
Yeah, thank you. So we're working on that.
we are,
Okay, good, because my street and the next street over, right across from Mr. Elkins' grandma or wife's grandmother's house. There's a tree that's been down forever, and I swear I seen a fox under it one day. And it goes from nuisance to dangerous, I think, because then we started inviting rabies into the area, stuff like that. And that's been a problem for a little while. That tree's been down for maybe 4 years, probably about 3 or 4 foot in circumference. So, you know, stuff like that does need to get taken care of. I think we maybe not push this until we get some stuff worked out, but just like the drought contingency plan. I think we should keep working on it and fine tuning it as we're working on the nuisance, so that when it's ready to hit, maybe we got all the answers. Maybe we just keep doing like we do on the water and keep throwing them ideas back and forth out there, and and work through it, because I think it's something that's needed. I agree with Mike on some issues. And I think things do need to be defined well, but,
And
we've got a piece of property here in town, family owned piece of property. Aunt Mary passed away at Coronado. And that's been over 6 years ago. But we keep the property. Like you said, sometimes you don't even know that the property is not vacant or abandoned. So we keep the property, right? We try to. I get notices every now.
Again, this is not. It's not meant as a punishment. It's meant as an economic development ordinance for residential. And so to start, it was just businesses. We expanded it.
so, the common denominators of this agreement. Well, I should say this, the criteria I think is extremely important. I don't want to see a situation, I looked through the qualifiers here. Overgrown or dead vegetation, accumulation of abandoned property, trash, visible deterioration or lack of maintenance of any building or structure. Those are our qualifiers. That sounds like animal control the last time I went out there. And we got an abandoned and vacant city pool. I'm worried that we get into a situation to where we're saying rules for thee and not for me. Where the city has got to
I understand.
do the same thing, and that's no slam on anybody. This city is more than anybody can handle regarding a lot of those things.
And you're not wrong. If you, some of the planning and zoning meetings that I've been at, asking why the city is doing this and why the city is doing that, because it hasn't been done correctly. And well, why can't the city just, it's the city property, you've been doing it that way forever. Well, that's not the way it should be done, right? We should be enforcing everything, including our own stuff. So it's not lost on me for that. And we're definitely trying to take care of it, which is why you see a lot of rezoning in different places, because it hasn't been zoned correctly in 10, 15 years, because everybody just forgot about it. We are still finding things as we go through.
So the common denominators are, I think that both chiefs, a registry that lets them get in contact with somebody immediately is a fantastic idea. And anything to curb and get rid of dangerous properties like this, especially that church. Somebody's going to get killed there, just point blank.
You're not wrong. And we've said that numerous times. If I was a legal expert, I'd go to court and take care of it, but I'm not. So, I'd be happy.
Myself not being any of those things, I don't understand why a threat to society, we can't go onto that property and make it safe. But that's obviously a different discussion. But so we do agree that dangerous and abandoned properties, we need some help there.
Also, the registry is not just so we can contact somebody, it's so that we have permission from the owner that if somebody has broken in
Exactly.
or anything, that we have permission to board it up if we cannot even get in contact.
And which brings up a whole nother level of you're offering a service in a sense, and maybe that could be an opt-in for vacant property that you give them permission. You if you have to board up a window to prevent damage, that the owner is responsible for that, and they do give you permission to remove somebody that is not supposed to be there as a service.
Well, and it becomes more than just removing it, like Chief was explaining, the difference between they can't solicit a trespass, so they can't call the property owner after the fact and say, hey, can we trespass this guy? But if they're on the registry, they're already assigning that ability to do that trespass on site. So as soon as they come in and they find a guy in there, they can arrest him as opposed to just making him leave.
Yep.
The only thing that I would say about obviously offering the service, and then if we had to, then the homeowner is responsible for it, is good in theory. However, just like the weeds and everything, if we go out, if people know that we're gonna do it. And then they're not gonna be they're gonna be charged, but if they don't pay it, it's just a lien, but if they don't plan on moving or refinancing their house. Then we never collect on it, then it becomes that, sometimes paying up, that's why people make you pay up front for certain services.
Yeah.
That would be in my opinion, that would be the way the city should take that action.
Is there anything else regarding this?
I'm good.
At least we're in the same maybe chapter now.
Fair enough.
Okay, and so Christine, how about the next meeting?
So in April. The first council meeting is the 5th or the 6th of May.
Okay,
So you can either meet the 22nd. Or the 29th of April.
okay. Preferences?
No. None for me.
I'm fine. We can't do it. Oh,
That's at night.
yeah, we can.
Okay, you want to do 22nd?
Second, 0900.
Okay. And we have would anybody like to comment from the staff? Other issues?
I got one thing.
Okay,
So we had talked a while back about putting a retaining wall. Cemetery, taking out the trees and putting a retaining wall in. We got a quote,
okay,
$120,000,
ouch,
and that was a local quote.
okay. So is regarding that,
Mine wasn't that one, mine was.
Who came up with the retaining wall
I
idea?
think it was Mr. Rackler.
Okay,
I think it was. Mine was just xeriscape it right up to,
I think the worry with that is with rain and washout. I think the only way if you took out those trees would be, you would have to put in a retaining wall. That's the only way it would.
okay,
I think those trees are the only thing that's holding up.
Holding up.
Soil anyway.
all right, we'll relook at it. Maybe we could just clean out the boulders so they won't fly around. So we have the opportunity for public to speak. You folks are the public. Do y'all want to say anything?
Speak on the situation with the country club on behalf of the co-op.
oh my, we should.
Good morning. I'm Ursula Parker. I'm the general manager of the water co-op. I would just like to foremost say that the co-op is all for anything that's going to help our entire community move forward and resolve our water situation. Can the co-op be included in those conversations regarding the country club? Because we do have some concerns as we begin contract negotiations and continue those with the city. We have a concern about cross-contamination with that water, and I know that's going to be a big concern for our members. We were notified, like Eric said, probably 4 or 5 years ago that the country club was going to be included in the permit. So we kind of sat around and waited for this to happen.
Okay.
But we know a lot of different things have come into play and it kind of wasn't a priority. But if we could just be included so that we know and we can kind of, inform our members and say, listen, we've been there, we've talked to them, we know it's not in the same connection as our system and all of that kind of stuff. And y'all have a leak.
We have dozens of leaks.
Yeah.
He's out there all the time working.
Yeah,
leaks.
cause I text Ariel when we got started, it's about 16 gallons an hour. And because the country club is in our top 10 high user on our
Okay, you're
system.
talking about y'all's side.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I assumed you meant our wells and our.
I wouldn't know,
Yep.
yeah, I wouldn't know that at all, but yeah, the country club is in our top
Okay,
10. You average, over the last 3 years, the country club averages about 19,000 gallons a month.
okay.
So.
We will look at it.
Yeah, and Ariel called the office and kind of told them, and I will tell you, and I will tell everybody here, Public Works, we are really starting to crack down on leaks. I've already been sending out certified letters. I'm hurting my members' feelings, but it's the next step. We've given them a year to get used to this new system. We've given them a year to get notified and take care of it for themselves. And now we're taking it to the next step.
Okay.
So
Would a good step be enforcing it through your rates?
I think we already do that, honestly.
Okay.
I went to an AWWA audit. Yeah, I just sorry, chief, that's I went to an AWWA audit to learn how to do that, and the lady there went, "Oh my goodness, I've got my tier rates were our 5 or 6 step. I mean, for every 1,000, you get 0 to 3,000 our system, which I think is a little bit, the city is 0 to 2, but that fluctuates across the entire state because that's one of the things we asked, and it's 50-50
Right.
on that. But for every 1,000 after that,
It just tears up.
it just tiers up. And I think we go to 10,000 and we tier up.
Okay.
We go to about 30 or 40,000, we tier up. And so we tier all the way up. So and then especially on the commercial side,
Right.
because we do charge 2 different, we have 2 commercial rates because we didn't want to punish people that just have an office or, just have their building that are construction and they go out and work all day and all they do is flush a toilet. Well, we didn't want them to, they're designated as commercial so that we know that, but they pay the same rate, kind of like in the city, like at the co-op's office, I pay the same thing that anybody that lives at home that uses a minimum bill. But yeah, so we are doing that already. It may be something we take a step further. We've talked about adding surcharges on to people with leaks.
Okay.
It's not, we've just talked about it. It's not something we've done yet. So
Well, I think I skipped over your question, but we'd love to have you in those conversations.
awesome. Thank you.
absolutely.
I appreciate that very much. I know the co-op was always involved in the Public Works Committee in the past, but COVID kind of stopped the meetings. And when they started back up again, we just weren't ever really asked to participate. And so
From our perspective, you're welcome.
when I remember, I'll be here.
And I would also request your attendance, I guess, on Monday. We got our drought contingency plan.
Yes, thank you. That was the other question
Please-
I was
please
gonna
come, yeah.
ask.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'll be honest, we plagiarize yours. I mean, generally that's, and in the past, the city management has said, yeah, because I mean, once we get through our contact, y'all are gonna require us to do that anyway, so it's always been our board's thought process is, well, we might as well just copy theirs.
I
So-
need an email address to add her to the calendar item.
RCWC. Okay. I'll go write it down right now, Chris. So, okay, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ursula. So comments?
I've got one.
Okay.
So I assumed we were talking about this, because at the last, Public Works meeting, I know that I had mentioned having it on here, and said that we need to have it at the March 25th meeting, and it's actually in the minutes. So I assumed that we were talking about it. That's why I was prepped to discuss it.
Okay.
So I've been reading your emails, but I just assumed that this would be an addition to it. So
Okay.
just a thought when we're thinking through this, I do know that I think the first one we had like a normal operations. So we're going to the supply and demand methodology, which I think is a fantastic way to do it.
Correct.
But I think that currently, I wish you wouldn't have stepped out. I wish I could have asked him, but
He had into the meeting.
I figured you. But what are we running at right now as far as the percentage of our total capacity of production? Is it 50%,
I think we're
60%?
50%. Is that not what he said?
I think that's what I heard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently we're at 50% capacity. To me, that is normal operations. We're not at risk of anything. We should have a tier in there that just says, hey, here's normal operations. Have its own restrictions even. Well, we don't like that word anymore.
If you attended these meetings, Preston, some of these questions would be answered.
Well, and I listened in and I got recaps of it all.
Okay.
But I understand that we do want everybody to continue to conserve. I get that aspect of it. But also Mike Miller said I was on the Public Works Committee meeting, or the Public Works Committee, not the Water Advisory Committee. Eldon was on that one. So I could attend via audience, but I'm not a member of it.
You actually are a member, but
Because it's a
You-
subcommittee.
it's a subcommittee, so everybody on Public Works is a member of Water
Okay.
Advisory Group.
Well, so my thoughts would be, we've got moderate up to 70%, and I think that the language should change to production. Because we're always meeting the demand. Right, currently, we're meeting 100% of the demand. But we're only using 50% production levels. So I think that column should change, but I think the tank levels become unnecessary. To me, if let's say that we're producing at normal operations, today we're using 60% of our total production, right? If we're at 60%, but our tank levels are dropping, I don't think we're really at 60%.
If we're
So,
dropping. you're
If our
absolutely
tank,
right.
if our max tank level, which I don't think it's actually 30, I think it's truly
32.
20. Well, but 29 is what Chris Mendoza had said, that's like the key,
I think he
the
said
peak.
30 yesterday,
30.
right?
Okay,
30 is what
okay.
we want to top out at.
Okay, are the tank levels 32 then?
Above
The
30,
full
above
tank is
30 is.
32, but.
Okay, okay,
Above 30 is
But it's for the
runoff.
overflows.
that's right, okay, so if we're at 30 and we're at 60% pumping, we can maintain that tank level, that's fine. He goes and more, we go to 70% to maintain the static level in the tank, I think we're all right. So it's about maintaining a static tank level, less about dropping. Because if it's dropping and we're at 100% production levels, we're merchant anyway.
Right.
And so I think that we ought to, and I'll call you a little bit more and see if we can discuss. this
Email me those
before
or call me and also the exact thing you're talking about is exactly what we're gonna be fine tuning next Monday. And when those things you're talking about, I definitely want Mendoza and Eric Duran sitting here when you're doing it.
Well, here's the reason I'm not,
Okay.
and I'm bringing it up now. My grandmother passed Saturday, her funeral's Monday, so I
I'm
won't be
sorry.
here.
Okay.
That's why I'm bringing it up now. I wish I could.
Let me know
But
those things.
I will email them. all to you.
Okay, we will definitely get them included in that conversation.
Okay.
We're getting close.
Yeah,
So,
we're
and,
very close.
and in a generic sense, the tank levels have taken, if I'm not mistaken, we're headed towards the tank levels taking a backseat and only be indicating like a check engine light coming on. I mean, we could have no trouble with that well field at all. And if those tank levels start dropping, we do have a problem. And it looks like a hole in the tank.
Right.
So it's still a problem, but it's not.
Well, and I think the tank levels are the key for Chris to say, hey, tank levels dropping, we're at 60%, let me go turn on another well.
Hmm.
Okay, I turned on another well, now we're at 70%, tank levels still dropping, crap, let's go turn on some more wells.
Okay.
Uh,
Triggers.
yeah, it has to be a trigger to send him to settle his operations.
We're gonna,
Because we could maintain the tank levels and kind of trick them. If we're running full capacity, sure, that tank's gonna be,
And that's where we need to be notified, you know, if we're running full capacity, or we got high tank levels. And it's 100 degrees outside, and Chris has got every pump on and a water hose from Clovis, we're in trouble. But
I
So
think
the
we were in
tank
trouble
level should
2
work
stages
with-
ago if we're at that.
oh no,
You know what I mean?
no, I get you. I just, that tank level dropping is definitely a visual indicator to everyone. But at the same time, like you said, if it's not dropping, but yet we're 100% capacity, then the people don't know what's going on. They just think we got enough water.
we're gonna,
I was there. I thought that at times.
we're gonna get this figured out. And I think we're very, very close. And I want to emphasize to everybody is that we determine that document is going to remain I don't mean a pun, a fluid document, living document, thank you. That can be modified in a heartbeat because our situation is going to continue to change. And Mr. Moyer, Mendoza are also working on factors like flow meters and SCADA systems that could totally change the whole concept of that document. And so we need to get it up there with the knowledge that we can and should change it at a fast pace as needed.
Right.
So-
Well, and I think the flow meters and the downhole devices that we're gonna install would only help the supply demand methodology.
Exactly.
I think the document can maintain as is, but let's say we have a well field of 100 wells. Well, if 50 of those wells are down, our current capacity or our max capacity is not the 100. It's what in those 50 that we have in service produced. And so it is fluid just as the way it's written. So that's all I got.
with you and Eric Segovia dealing with a utility in those manners, we'll be leaning towards you a lot with that factor, and Ursula's already volunteered to get in the big middle of this, so
Voluntold.
exactly. So Thomas, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think I'm okay for now.
Okay, I had one quick item. A lady reached out that lives on the street between Pat's and the high school. And that would be East First Street. And she lives in the first block near Pat's. She has 4 kids, a couple of pets, and she says everybody, with an emphasis on everybody, is speeds on that street. And she is one mother trying to keep her eyes on everyone and says sometimes it's nearly impossible. And she is terrified for her children's safety as well as the pets. Wonders if anything could be done to slow down the traffic. And so I throw this out there for maybe Mr. Moyer to see. I don't know if
Is
there's.
there a particular time of day, is it school traffic?
I didn't get details.
I mean.
That-
it includes
And I bet that
patrol.
road everybody just speaking.
Yes. So
Um,
I stated that I would mention that. So
what block? You said
800 block.
The first block east of Pat's is the 800.
I'll have Steve look at that street.
Okay.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure we can do something.
okay. And with that, would somebody make a motion to adjourn?
I have one question before we
Okay.
do some for the public works. I saw them as I was pulling in. They're putting something down on this baseball field right here. Do you know what the truck's driving? Spreading?
We're doing pre-emergent all everywhere.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.